Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to remind council, municipal staff, and members of the public in attendance that this electronic public meeting is being live streamed to the public. A video recording of this meeting will be available to the public on the township's YouTube account. I'd like to thank the applicants for their patience and understanding of the need to organize this meeting through the use of technology. The municipality has made every effort to ensure all affected property owners were informed and are able to participate in this planning process. Sue, could you read the note, please?
One of the purposes of the Planning Act is to provide for planning processes that are open, accessible, timely, and efficient. Accordingly, all written submissions, documents, correspondence, emails, or other communications, including your name and address, form part of the public record and will be disclosed, made available by the municipality to such persons as the municipality sees fit, including anyone requesting such information. Accordingly, in providing such information, you shall be deemed to have consented to its use and disclosure as part of the planning process.
Thank you. I'd like to do the First Nations land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest this morning?
None.
Okay, I see none. The purpose of the meeting is to hear persons' comments in regards to a request for a minor variance with respect to the provisions of zoning bylaw number 2006-26 as amended. The application was made by the applicant owner, Jeff Burkett of Burkett Homes, who is the applicant, and the owner is David Haas. It's 40295 Cumbermere Road, part of Lot 8, Concession 9, County of Renfrew, file number A-5/22. And I'll turn it over to Lindsay to take us through this application.
All right, thank you. I'm going to share and see how this goes today. Good?
Yes.
All right, so the nature and extent of the relief being sought from the provisions of the zoning bylaw number 2006-26 as amended is to increase the height requirement for a garage from 5 meters to 7.5 meters. The notice of application and public meeting were sent out to all affected property owners within 60 meters on August 5th. And the notice was posted on the property on August 5th. So just go through my planning report here. So the property is a residential lot that is approximately 1.14 hectares in area and has road frontage on Cumbermere Road and water frontage on the Madawaska River. There is an existing dwelling, detached garage, 2 sheds, and a boat port on the property. This here is just air photography of looking at the property. So over here in the corner is where the proposed garage is going to be located. This is just a little air photography map showing the surrounding uses. This is crown land over here, and then there's just some existing residential development along the Madawaska River here, and then crown land. The property is designated as rural in the official plan and zoned as residential 1 in the township zoning bylaw. So section 45(1) of the Planning Act provides a committee of adjustment may authorize a minor variance from the provisions of the zoning bylaw if the request maintains the general intent and purpose of both the official plan and zoning bylaw, if the development is desirable and appropriate for the lands, building, or structure, and if the variance is in fact minor. So as mentioned before, that the property does contain a dwelling, garage, 2 sheds, and a boat port. The applicant stated in the application that all the existing buildings are going to be removed and replaced with a new dwelling and garage. The garage is proposed to be 109 square meters in size. The official planning and zoning bylaw both permit accessory buildings and structures to a residential use. The garage was shown on the submitted site plan to be located at the center of the property. So it's set back approximately 53 meters from the front lot line And then based on air photography, it appears that the property is surrounded by trees. Therefore, it's not anticipated that the proposed garage will have an impact on the surrounding properties. The garage is to be located more than 33 meters from both of the interior lot lines, which exceeds the requirement for the interior side yard setback and is not close to any neighboring properties. The garage is also proposed to be set back 45 meters from the Madawaska River, which exceeds the requirement of 30 meters from the water setback. The proposed height of the garage is 7.5 meters, which does not meet the maximum height in the zoning bylaw of 5 meters. So the application was circulated to the township's internal departments, and that we had the following comments. So the planning services and facility supervisor indicated that the proposed garage has an unconventional roof line, and that as per the zoning bylaw, the height is measured from the grade to the peak and not the midpoint that most are measured from. The manager of planning development stated that it seems that the purpose of the requested height increase is to allow for a second story in the garage. He recognizes that the zoning bylaw does not permit habitation in accessory buildings. However, second stories would certainly facilitate an above garage apartment suite. And when suites are installed above garages, they are not permitted. It becomes a strain on municipal staff to enforce, and please consider this. So the application, as mentioned before, was also circulated to the adjacent property owners, and no comments have been received. So as mentioned, the area surrounding the property and the site is predominantly treed, and the location of the garage is significantly set back from any of the adjacent property lines. It is staff's opinion that the request to increase the height for a garage to 7.5 meters can be considered minor and can be supported, as it's not anticipated to be any adverse impacts on the adjacent property owners due to the height increase. This increase in height will also not affect the rural nature of the area. The proposed garage is to be located close to the center of the property and is set back approximately 30 meters from any property line. The township manager of planning and development did express the concerns related to habitation of the garage. The proposed use of the garage will be required to comply with the zoning bylaw. The applicant has stated in the application that the new buildings will replace the existing buildings of the same use. So the township did confirm that the current buildings are to be used for storage. Section 3.32 of the zoning bylaw states that no accessory buildings or structures shall be used for human habitation, except for a dwelling as permitted use. The application has not indicated that the garage is going to be used for habitation. So accessory buildings and structures to residential uses are permitted in the official plan as well as the zoning bylaw. Since the garage is for residential purposes, the application can be considered to meet the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. No impacts are anticipated on the adjacent properties, and the proposed garage can be considered to be desirable and appropriate for the land and can be considered minor. The garage is proposed to be located more than 30 meters from the high water mark of the Madawaska River. Just going back to the comments that were given from the planning services and facilities supervisor, he indicated that this roof design triggers a different height calculation than its traditional peaked or gable roof. So the height for a peaked or gable roof is measured from the midpoint of the eaves to the peak of the roof. And then as this roof design is not traditional, the planning supervisors indicated that the measurement of height is to the highest level of the peak. So the requested variance would allow a height of 7.5 meters. It wouldn't be so large if we would be measuring to the midpoint. So it's just a point that we wanted to make to kind of clarify Andy's comments. So we also just have a couple of mitigation measures in order to protect the water quality of the Madawaska River. So we recommend that each troughing be installed on the proposed building and it be directed, the runoff to be directed away from the lake and away from the neighboring property. The extent of the exposed soils is to be kept to a minimum at all times. Revegetation with native trees and shrubs of exposed non-developed areas is to be achieved as soon as possible. Erosion and sediment control features are a critical component of the construction work. So effective sediment and erosion control measures are to be maintained until complete revegetation of disturbed areas is achieved, so that the garage cannot be used for habitation purposes such as sleeping, eating, or sanitary, and that the building permit for the garage be consistent with the side elevation profile that was submitted with the minor variance application. That is it for me. I'll turn it back to the mayor.
Okay.
Gwen,
Yes.
you're in the same boat.
Gwen, if you could not share your screen.
Yes,
There we go. Okay, Lindsay, did you want to take us through the notices and the written comments?
yes. So the notice was sent to the public bodies and we received no comments back from any public bodies. And we have not received any written comments other than the 2 internal staff comments that we put in the report. And we have received no verbal comments.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any oral or written presentations by those in attendance? I see we don't have anyone in attendance. So I'll move to questions, discussion by council. Any questions? Councillor Bromwich, I'm sorry, is your hand up? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I have some reservations here on this particular variance. It doesn't seem to be minor to me. My problem would be if we did approve this, or did approve it, would that set a precedent for all other applications asking for an increase in height for the garage? We'd have an awful tough time turning the next one down, the following one down, if there was a bevy of applications coming in here. Would we have a leg to stand on saying, I'm sorry, but you can't have 7.5 meters? And then the opponents would say, well, you just okayed one down on Covermere Road. So I kind of, this idea of being the midpoint of the roof, not measuring 7.5 meters, is kind of a moot point because the actual increase in height is to the peak of the roof from the ground. I mean, if the peak is moved over 10 feet or 5 feet from the place, it shouldn't make any difference in the height variance that they're applying for. So I have a problem with this, seriously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bromwich. Did anyone wish to respond to that? Oh, Lindsay, did you wish to respond? And then I'll go on to Councillor Poplinski.
Sure, I can respond. So for the setting of the precedents, it's kind of like that we had this conversation with the last one. So we will, every application that's applied for, we will evaluate on its own merit. So we are going to look at the surrounding uses. We're going to see if it does impact the neighboring properties, if it can be considered minor. So in this one, we looked at it, it's going to be located in the center of the property, setback 30 meters from each lot line. It's treed, you wouldn't really see it from the road. So it's our staff opinion that it is considered minor. The next application we would look at all those different, like the surrounding uses, the setback to the lot line. So each one is evaluated based on that application. And we wouldn't be like, oh, well, we did approve it for the last one, but this one we would just look at what's in front of us, and that's how you would come to your conclusion.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. So basically you're indicating that the conditions specific to this application are what make it acceptable. Okay, Councillor Poplinski, you had a question.
I did, Mayor. Thank you. First of all, I was just going to mention that much of the presentation so far has been, my system has been shutting down, so I've been getting every fourth or fifth word, basically, but I've got all the material in front of me and I have gone over it, so I understand the situation here. So I don't know if anybody else is having an issue with the technology this morning, but no. So if I could proceed, based on the recommendations from the county, and they have we've dealt with many of these situations, and I take issue with Councillor Bromwich's comment that we can't do this. We have the power to do it. We've been doing it in the past. Every case is judged on its own merit, and the recommendations is that we approve it. Now, if there was some major use of this is a family cottage that's been there for 50 some years. And I understand that one member of the council now, or one member of the family has purchased the property, and it'll be a property used by one family. So I don't see any reason why we would want to turn this down. I think it's good development, and I think that's what we want to encourage in our township. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poplinski. I don't think Councillor Bromwich was expressed that he did not that he disapproved of it. He was just asking questions to clearly understand and make it very clear also to the public who may be watching this meeting at a later date from the live stream, that each individual minor variance is considered based on its own merits. It does not set a precedent. So I don't think that he was stating a clear objection to that, and ultimately he will vote on which way he wants to go with this. Councillor Wilmer. Thank
you, Mayor Love. Yes, I was just going to add to that, that we had one very similar to this at our last meeting where where I did actually ask the question on, does it set a precedent? And Lindsay gave me basically the same answer she's given today. And I think it's important to realize that they are all dealt with on their own merits. And that's really what criteria makes it palatable or not. So I certainly understand this process, and to me, it is a very minor variance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I did have a question, Lindsay. So you're setting a condition that if council approves this, one of the conditions is that it cannot be used as living space. How does that sit next to the secondary dwelling unit allowance that the province is really pushing? So what would take precedence? Our minor variance saying no, it can't be used as a living space, or the secondary dwelling unit criterion? In the future, is it possible that they would then turn this into a secondary dwelling unit?
So with right now, the township doesn't have any policies and provisions for second dwelling units. So the person would have to do it on a case by case. So they would have to meet any of the requirements in the official plan. So some of them, when they're on water, they would have to do a study. When we update the township zoning bylaw, if they meet the criteria, they could apply for one, but this one is already going to be, this one is not allowed to have, because we're going to have in the conditions there that they're not allowed to have it as a secondary suite or be used for habitable space. They may have to go through another process in the future to permit that.
Okay, so there would be further steps if that was something that they decided down the road they did wish to do, because we are setting the criterion with accepting this minor variance. It is conditional to it not being used for that. Okay, it's an exceptionally large garage. My house isn't much bigger. So, you know, I think that council wants to be reassured that it is going to be used for the purpose as stated, basically the same purpose as before. It's a lot of storage space. I mean, I wish I had that much storage space, but I want to be reassured that if we're accepting it, that's key, that there will be further review and there may be other criterion should a future property owner wish to turn this rather large space into a secondary dwelling unit. Okay, so yeah, that answers my question. Thank you. Any further questions from council? I know Councillor Poplinski, I lost you for a moment there. Are you back?
It's very broken signal. I haven't heard I've heard almost nothing in the last 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, so we were just sorry, getting confirmation from Lindsay that you can't hear me, can you? I can tell now you're breaking up. Okay, let's see if we can get this evaluation done before we lose him entirely. So Sue, did you want to take us through the evaluation?
Yes, I will. The Committee of Adjustment must consider 4 tests when reviewing a minor variance application. These tests are provided in section 45(1) of the Planning Act. The variance is minor in nature.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Councillor Poplinski? Oh, he's frozen. Is there any chance, Sue, that he could momentarily share your space so we could complete this meeting?
Yes, I will just go out.
Okay, I'm sorry. Councillor Proplinski, are you back? Mm. Okay, we'll just take a second here and we will try to get through this. If he joins Sue in her office, hopefully that will allow him to be able to provide his answers to the evaluation. I thought for a moment there it was going to look like he time traveled because he was frozen and he might appear in Sue's office. Here we go. Okay, Sue, I'm sorry. Could you do the 4 tests again, starting with the first one so that we can hear Councillor Proplinski's responses?
Yes, the Committee of Adjustment must consider 4 tests when reviewing a minor variance application. These tests are provided in Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. The variance is minor in nature.
Yes.
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 No.
Okay.
The variance is desirable for the appropriate development of use of the land, building, or structure.
Yes.
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 The general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw is maintained.
Yes.
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 The general intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained.
Yes.
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 If the application cannot meet all of the 4 tests, it should be refused. Back to you,
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you. And could you do the notification?
A copy of the decision of the committee will be sent to the applicant and to each person who appeared in person or by counsel at the hearing and who has filed with the Secretary Treasurer a written request for notice of the decision. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Madawaska Valley in respect of this application, you must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Madawaska Valley. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Committee of Adjustment to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Madawaska Valley before the decision is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Madawaska Valley before the decision is made by the Committee of Adjustment, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Then we will move to the committee decision. Resolution to grant application A-5/22 Haas, that the Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance file number A-5/22 for David Haas as per the County of Renfrew conditions. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Proplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. All those in favor? And that's carried. All right, thank you, everyone. And with that, I will declare the meeting closed and we'll move on to our council meeting.
Thank you.